Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Australian Conference of Economists 2024. Today, I'm excited to share some important economic concepts that affect both our field and everyday lives. As we navigate modern economics, it's crucial to understand how consumer and producer welfare works, how taxes impact us, and the role of technology in shaping our economy. Let's dive into these topics and see how they relate to our future careers in economics. Firstly, we will dive into the impacts of consumption taxes on consumer and producer welfare. As we can see in diagram 1 on the left, the consumer surplus is the blue triangle area above the price level and below the demand curve. It represents the benefit consumers get from purchasing the good at a lower price than they are willing to pay. The producer surplus is the orange triangle area below the price level and above the supply curve. It represents the benefit producers get from selling the good at a price higher than their minimum acceptable price. This is the most ideal scenario as there is no deadweight loss because every transaction benefits both the buyer and the seller. Consumers get more for less and producers earn more than the minimum they are willing to accept. Now, let's take a look at what happens when there is tax imposed. Diagram 2 on the right shows what happens when a consumption tax is introduced. The price paid by consumers increase from P1 to P2, while the price received by producers decrease from P1 to P3. This tax creates a wedge between what consumers pay and what producers receive, reducing both consumer and producer surplus. The new consumer surplus after tax is smaller, represented by the blue triangle above P2. The new producer surplus is also smaller, represented by the orange triangle above P3. The tax revenue generated by the government is shown as the green rectangle between P4 and P5. This revenue is collected from both consumer and producers. However, the key inefficiency introduced by this tax is the deadweight loss, shown by the purple triangle between B, C, and A. This represents the loss of economic efficiency due to the reduction of quantity goods sold from Q1 to Q2. This is because beneficial trades between consumer and producers no longer take place due to higher price consumers face and lower price producers receive. In conclusion, consumption tax reduce both consumer and producer welfare by shrinking their respective surpluses and creating deadweight loss, which represents the loss of economic value from reduced market activity. Now, let's take a look at what happens when there is no tax imposed on import. In diagram 1, the market operates under world trade where the price of goods is determined by the world price, which is lower than the domestic price. This leads to the following key points. Consumer surplus under world trade is the blue triangle area above PW and below the demand curve. It represents the total benefit to consumers who are able to buy the goods at a lower world price. Producer surplus under world trade is the small orange triangle area below PW and above the supply curve, representing the benefit to domestic producers. The difference between Q2 and Q3 represents the imported quantity of goods, as domestic producers only supply up to Q2 while consumers demand Q3 at the world price. Since the price is low and there are no restrictions such as tariffs, consumer surplus is maximized, making this scenario the most ideal for consumer in terms of total welfare. However, when the government imposes a tariff in diagram 2, raising the price from point PW at the world price to PT at the price after tariff, the result is a loss in efficiency and welfare due to higher price for consumers at PT, and consumers will now have to pay a higher price, which reduces the quantity demanded from Q3 to Q5. When a tariff is imposed, imports decrease because higher price makes imported goods less attractive. Imports fall from Q2 to Q5, while domestic producers increase output from Q2 to Q4 as they now can charge a higher price, making domestic production more profitable. The government collects tariff revenues from the imports between Q4 and Q5, represented by the green rectangle area E plus G. Now, deadweight loss. The purple triangle shows the market inefficiency caused by the tariff. Before the tariff, consumers could buy more goods at the world price. After the tariff, the higher price reduced demand, leading to a loss of consumer surplus, represented by the purple triangle on the right area G. These are the consumers who no longer buy the goods because of the price increase and the value of their consumption is gone forever. Domestic producers increase their output from Q2 to Q4 after the tariff, but this leads to inefficiency because producing domestically costs more than importing at the world price. The left purple triangle, area F, shows the extra cost of domestic production that exceeds the world price, meaning resources are wasted. In summary, the deadweight loss from a tariff comes from two sources: overproduction by domestic producers and underconsumption by consumers, unlike consumer tax, which reduces demand for all goods without necessarily affecting production decision between domestic and imported goods. Moving on, let's take a look at generative AI's roles in shaping labor market inequality. In scenario 1, we have a graph depicting what happens when AI reduces inequality in the labor market. The demand curve represents the relationship between wages and the quantity of labor that firms are willing to hire. Initially, the demand curve for low-skilled workers is at point DL1, and the labor market is in equilibrium at A, where the wage is at point W1 and the quantity of labor employed is at Q1. With the introduction of generative AI, low-skilled workers benefit from AI tools that enhance their productivity as AI can assist in tasks they are time-consuming or repetitive, enabling these workers to do more in less time. As a result of the productivity improvement, firms can now generate more output with the help of low-skilled workers who utilize AI, making these workers more valuable. This leads to an increase in demand for low-skilled labor, shifting the demand curve from point DL1 to DL2. The new equilibrium occurs at point B, where both wages W2 and employment at point Q2 increase. In this case, AI improved the work done by low-skilled employers, increasing their worth and allowing them to earn higher wages while also increasing the number of jobs available in this segment. On the other hand, the middle graph depicts the labor market for low-skilled workers, whereby AI increased inequality. In this scenario, generative AI substitutes low-skilled labor rather than complementing it. Initially, the labor market for low-skilled workers is at equilibrium at point A, with wage at point W1 and employment at point Q1. Generative AI automates tasks traditionally performed by low-skilled workers. As a result of automation, firms no longer need as many low-skilled workers, and the demand for low-skilled labor decreased, shifting the demand curve from point DL1 to DL2. The new equilibrium is now at point B, where both wages, point W2 and employment, Q2, falls. In this case, AI displaces low-skilled workers, leading to a lower wage and fewer job opportunities. This results in higher unemployment among low-skilled workers and a decrease in their earning power, worsening income inequality. Nonetheless, the last graph at the right depicts the labor market for high-skilled workers, whereby high-skilled workers, particularly those who design and implement AI technologies, see a sharp increase in demand as AI spreads across industries. The labor market is initially in equilibrium at point A, where wages are at point W3 and employment is at point Q3. Companies rely on high-skilled professionals to manage and integrate AI into their operations, increasing demand for AI engineers, data scientists, and other high-skilled workers. For example, organizations invest in advanced machine learning models or AI-driven business solutions, which requires more high-skilled workers. The demand for high-skilled workers shifts from point DH1 to DH2, leading to a new equilibrium point at point B, where wages increase from point W4 and employment increase to point Q4. High-skilled workers benefit greatly from the rise in AI as their expertise becomes more essential and valued. In conclusion, if generative AI is implemented in ways that complement the work of low-skilled workers, improving their productivity and demand, it could reduce wage inequality by offering high wages and increase job opportunities across the board. On the other hand, if AI mainly substitutes low-skilled labor, primarily benefits high-skilled workers, it could exacerbate wage inequality by reducing demand for low-skilled workers while increasing demand for high-skilled workers, creating a polarized labor market. Now, let's move on to analyze the dual effects of AI. In scenario 1, AI enhances productivity, leading to increased GDP. The economy starts at an equilibrium point A, where AD1 intersects SRAS1 at a price level P1, producing output Y asterisk, which is the economy's initial level of GDP. AI enhances productivity by allowing firms to produce more of the same resources. This causes a shift from SRAS1 to SRAS2, indicating increased output. At the same time, AI increases the economy's long-term productivity capacity, moving LRAS1 to LRAS2, signaling higher potential GDP Y1 asterisk. The new equilibrium point B sees GDP rise from Y asterisk to Y1 asterisk while price remains stable at P1. In scenario 2, AI does not lead to major productivity improvement, but it drives up demand, resulting in inflation without much GDP growth. The economy begins at point A, where AD1 and SRAS1 meet, reflecting the initial price level P1 and output Y asterisk. However, LRAS1 stays the same, indicating no change in the economy's long-term capacity. Even though AI does not boost productivity, high investment in AI and increased consumer confidence push demands from AD1 to AD2. This moved the economies to point B, causing slight rise in GDP to Y1 asterisk, but prices also increased from P1 to P2 due to inflation. If demands keep rising without corresponding productivity growth, further inflation occurs, pushing back prices from P2 to P3 at point C. The lack of significant productivity gains, along with integration challenges or sector-specific benefits, limit the overall economic growth. In conclusion, in scenario 1, where AI significantly boosts productivity, leading to a sustained increase in GDP and a stable or decreasing price level, this represents a healthy expansion in economic output. On the other hand, in scenario 2, where generative AI does not improve productivity, leading to a short-term increase in GDP driven by demand, but at the cost of inflation, the economy's long-term potential GDP remains unchanged. Behavioral economics help explain why people often choose unhealthy food even when they want to eat healthier. One reason is status quo bias, where they tend to stick to their habits, especially if healthy options are easier for them. The framing effect also influences us. For example, how food is marketed or labeled can affect our choices without us even realizing it. Many people focus on avoiding the loss of their favorite food rather than the benefits of eating healthier. By understanding these behaviors, we can make healthy food more convenient and set achievable goals rather than just relying on willpower. With that, I'll wrap up my presentation. Thank you for your time and have a great day.